Go ahead.
Okay. We're not scripted at all, so we might jump around a little bit, but I guess I'll start out. So to kind of give a little bit of a backstory on some of the stuff that I want to talk about, it's important for you to kind of understand a little bit of the setup in Ghana and how they are. There's three major religions in Ghana. You have Christianity, Islam, and then Animus. It's this tribal worship. Basically, they worship idols, like you hear about in the Old Testament. They create these statues and figurines and worship their ancestors, right? So there's a lot of, like a long time ago, what was it, like 60, 70 years ago or something like that, all the tribes got together and they agreed that they wouldn't fight based off their religious differences. So it's pretty peaceful and they're all pretty understanding despite their differences, different than in most places than what you'd expect. But so there's kind of this, like I said, animus worship where they sacrifice animals on these different idols. And I bring this up because it kind of is important to what we experienced while we were there. But to share a little bit, one of the first days that we were there, one of our first full days, we jumped into a bus and we went out to this village. Drove through dirt roads, if you could call it a road. It was more like a path through grass and through huts and stuff and down trees, and you just kind of made your way among the livestock or whatever. And we get out at this school, and the idea here was that we were going to go to as many homes in that village in pairs of two and just share the gospel. And so we get out and we're dividing up into teams. And it's pretty obvious kind of who team leaders are going with, who Ellen, our leader, is kind of partnering us with. So, like Sean goes with somebody. We had two other pastors. They went with somebody, their wives, was a typical one. We're looking around and trying to figure out who's going with who. And clearly the people who are more skilled in the word are getting chosen up and paired off. And I'm coming down to like the last few people. And Ellen looks at me, and there's like nobody left except for me and Monique. And she's like, Matthew, you and Monique going off somewhere, And I'm like, oh crap, I've got. I just came on a mission trip to Ghana, and now you just told me to go out and spread the word of the gospel. I'm like, I've never done this before, but what did I expect? I'm on a missions trip, right? This is why I came. But my eyes got big, and I'm like, what am I going to do here? And we had a translator with us, the pastor's daughter, and so I just looked to her and kind of just said, I don't know, really, I'm a little bit out of my element. And she said, don't worry, God is with you. And I said, yeah, that's right, let's go. So Monique and I, we head out and we went to a couple different villages or a couple different homes. And I think can you go to the one after, Steve? Yeah, this was one of the first places that we stopped at. And right there in the middle of Monique and I is Mercy. That's Pastor Peter's daughter. She was our translator. But we got the opportunity to share the gospel with these children. But the interesting thing was one of these idols was right outside of that home. I might have put a picture of it in here. I don't know what order these are in. But one of the idols was right outside of this home. And so we were sharing the gospel to these children while standing next to this idol that they worship, and a bunch of older men came out and were hearing us talk, and they were asking questions and things like that. So that was, day one, really thrown right into kind of that dynamic of idol worship versus Christianity. And I'm going to pass it off to someone else for a little while.
Just to continue what Matthew was saying, I don't even know if we have a picture of it, but we also met this lady, older lady. She was in her home by herself, but she said, all her kids and grandchildren were off making money for them. And I know here we don't have money, or our family is gone. We worry so much, but she has such a peace with her, and it was such amazing. Matthew and I got to pray with her. Her knees and stuff was hurting her really bad, so she wasn't able to walk to the church, because even though it was a village, their houses were far away from each other. But she had such a peace with her, and I am remembering that every day when I want to start thinking about what I have to do or what's coming up. I just remember them and how peaceful they are and how grateful they are for every little thing. They're so grateful, and there's no arguing about anything. They're raising their family like a village, you know. They just pass the babies along. You'll see us holding some of the babies. It was a really amazing trip. And that first day, that first Saturday, just start off to an amazing week.
So yeah, to kind of add on, that old woman there that we went in when we went into her home, she was surprised to see us, but she was, hunched over. She was moving really slow. She looked pretty defeated, and after sitting there with her for a little while, she told us that she was a believer, and we just kind of, like Monique said, listened to a couple of things that she had been dealing with, and then after just offering to pray with her, we, just taking the time to pray with her and just share and be empathetic in some of the struggles that she was going with. When she left, she had a whole new brightness about her, and almost like she'd been restored a little bit. She was standing up straight. She had a big smile on her face, and it rubbed off on us too. Some of the group said, as we were walking back, they could see our smiles on our faces from several hundred yards away, as we were walking back to the group. So that was really cool, just to share in that experience and see how, like on day one, see how faithful the people are there. How much hope they have in God and how much they trust God. It was really, really cool to see that first day.
So I'm not usually a frontline person for stuff, so I'm not really in a whole lot of pictures. I did speak in front of everyone like I am now. So Tina and I sponsor a young lady in Ghana. Her name is Patricia. So while I was there, I was able to meet her and meet her family. Ellen didn't really tell us anything about their family. She just said, hey, you go out with an interpreter and meet them. So Grace, one of the other folks on our mission team, went with me, which I was very grateful for, because she has very much a bubbly personality and made the whole meeting go much better for me. So I don't know if they have the video up here that I sent to Tina. No? Okay.
That video you don't have?
Okay. But anyways, when I was sitting there, or when I went and met Patricia, I started asking her questions, and I found out that both of Patricia's parents have passed away. She has a twin brother, and her great aunt is the one that helps raise her in her community. So Patricia wants to be a nurse. So, of course, Tina being a nurse gave me a little bit of commonality to ask her, well, what kind of nurse do you want to be? Do you want to take care of the elderly? Do you want to work with a doctor? Or she said she wants to deliver babies. While I was asking her these questions, I noticed these other kids all laughing all around her. Didn't really think much about it. Later on, when I asked Ellen about it, Ellen said that in their society, because her parents are gone, there's really nobody there to protect her. So the other kids will make fun of her, and she kind of gets treated kind of like Cinderella does. Ellen said that because I asked her what she wanted to do and made a big deal about it, that those kids probably will not be picking on her for the next 6 months or so. Because I took an interest in it and I made it important. The other thing that I really noticed is that Patricia's great aunt said to me more than once, please just don't stop what you're doing. And I found that very interesting because here in the States, we always hear, well, what more can you do? What more can you do? I was never asked that. I was only asked not to stop. That's not something I ever heard that way before, and it really touched me a lot. So I encourage anyone here, if it's on their heart, to help through ASON. The whole family needs help. I was also very impressed in being there and listening to Ellen talk about the way they build the schools. They started out with an elementary school, they went with a middle school, and they went with a high school. But they make it very much so the community supports the school. All they do is go in and build the infrastructure. If the community can't support the school and they do it slowly to ensure that this happens, maybe I'm saying this wrong, they make sure that they learn how to support the school as they grow. I'm very, very proud of the fact that as a church we support ASON because I saw it firsthand. These kids, it's not like here in the US where we look at K through 12, you send your kids off to school, they're getting an education, they come home. There, if there's no school, there's no education beyond whatever their family teaches them.
Just to add on to what Joff is saying here, so the high school over there isn't quite finished yet, and right now they need $2,500 to get laptops. They have to have a computer and science lab. They have to get laptops, dry erase boards, and I think it was desks with it. So once they can get these three things, they have the space for them. But once they can get these three things, then they can have high school students there at the school. No worry about getting more space and adding on a little bit later. But they need these three things. Right now, ASON is trying to raise the money for that. They're $2,500 short. So if everybody in this room gave $10, that would cover a good chunk of that, if you're able. When these high school students, if they're not able to go to this school that's privately ran, then they have to go to a government-funded school. And those schools, they send them to anywhere in the country. So they could go to southern Ghana, they're way up in the north. They could be a 10 or 15-hour bus ride away from their family. And when they go to that school, they stay there, and they stay there until they graduate. And you cannot transfer schools. So it's really important for the community-wise to keep these kids in the same school that they've been going to since elementary school, since junior high, where they're learning about the word. This school is so important to this community that the Muslim families send their Muslim children to a Christian school to get an education because it's the best one around. That's what we're talking about here in this kind of school. So just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry to take the time away from you, Joff, but really important. If we can give anything to help them with that, it would be greatly appreciated. But just wanted to add that in.
So Steve is famous about passing the mic, okay? He did that the whole trip. When Pastor Peter was trying to get him to speak, he would pass it on to someone. So he's continuing that. But he wanted me, so I have been going here for, I don't know, maybe 15 plus years. And I'm very shy. I don't really talk much. Normally this would be absolutely horrible for me, but taking that trip to Ghana has definitely changed that. But there, for the ladies' conference, we focus on forgiveness and that, God is coming, the end is coming, and we need to be, our hearts need to be right. So for the first time ever, I shared my story. I shared my testimony. I've never done that before, and I was really nervous and really scared. But I had Joff and Steve and Matt and Sean. They were able to come over to the women's conference and be that support, and it was amazing. But in my story, I shared about abandonment and forgiveness. Just real short, I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but I guess from the age of 5, where I can remember the age of 5 and up, I just was always left with my grandma. My mom was in and out of the house. My dad was, I might have saw him once or twice a year. He denied me at the age of 12. It's just a whole lot of stuff. Maybe 5 years ago, I learned to forgive him. I remember sitting right back there in the middle of the church, and I just started texting him and telling him how I felt and what was going on in my head. And he apologized, and I accepted it, and now we have somewhat of a relationship. It's not, great, but it is definitely better than what it was. And it took a lot to forgive. It was very hard, but it happened, and the ladies there were grateful and just very receiving of everything that we taught them. Now, Steve, it's your turn.
You know you may not get this back. That's the problem. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank everyone here because we're sitting up here as the Ghana team, but really this is a church team. We couldn't have gone there without support and prayers, and that was evident when we were there that God was moving because you guys were involved too. So we represented this church and the kingdom over there, but you were a big part of that. So thank you for that. So I've been thinking about a passage of scripture in Mark. It's also referenced in John, but in Mark's gospel, I like it because it doesn't identify the woman. This woman comes up to Jesus after he has come into Jerusalem, and that week that he's going to go from being celebrated to crucified, she comes up and she pours this perfume, Mark says, on his head. In John, she puts it on his feet and washes his feet. So he basically gets covered in perfume. And at that time, the disciples are not cool with it because they think, wow. One of the disciples literally says, why this waste? This could have been sold and we could have done all these other things with it for the poor people. And I think about a team of people going all the way to Ghana when there's things that can be done here. And often the question is, why? Why are you doing that? That seems so inefficient. Really, the things that we did could have been done easily and are done by the people in Ghana. The church there is very strong. It goes out and evangelizes the communities, the villages. We've gone along with them. But why would God send us? It just doesn't make sense to our minds. Like the disciples, we can think of better ways, more efficient ways. I love Jesus' response. He says, leave her alone. He says these words, she's done what she can. And he also says, by the way, there are poor people around here. You can take care of them anytime you want if you really want to. It's not an either or. So to our minds, it makes no sense. But when God tells you to go, you go. And I think about Monique. We've been going there for 10 years. And for 10 years, Monique has wanted to go. And instead of going those other times, she did what she could. She headed up the fundraising and was the biggest cheerleader. And she prayed. And now this time God said, Monique, now you get to go. And he made a way. And so Yeah, they would survive without us, but together, God does something not only with them that we don't even know about, but we know He did stuff with us. A friend of mine used to say, if you go, you grow. And I'm going to turn the mic over to these guys again so that they can tell you about how they've grown as a result of this experience, because we did not come back the same as we left. So, Matt, you're ready, aren't you?
Sure, that's a good segue. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something that Sean had to tell me a few times before going, excuse me. You know, I had doubts along the whole way, and he said something to me that really stuck with me the whole time and even after. And he said, God doesn't call the qualified, but He qualifies those who are called. And I think that was certainly true for us on the trip throughout the whole time. It was, like the story I had talked about first, the moment of a little discomfort right away. And then, I think everything went exactly as it was supposed to be. I want to talk a little bit about something that I got to be a part of. Well, we all got to be a part of it. During the women's conference, we were asked, Monique Joff and I were asked if we wanted to help volunteer for this skit. And we were asked at breakfast time at, 8:30. The skit was to be put on at 9:15. So we all look at each other and say, yeah, I guess we'll do our best. We get the details of the skit, and of course, Joff and I, being ex-military, we immediately overanalyzed every little aspect of this skit. But basically, the idea was pretty simple. We were going to, someone was going to read from First Philippians, and we were going to do a little portrayal, I guess, of showing how Jesus came down. He voluntarily came down from heaven, left the Father and the Spirit to come down and serve the people, right? And that was kind of the play, was to show how Jesus came down to serve. And so at one point, we're spinning around in circles underneath a sheet and tripping over each other, and the details and things aren't really important for this sake, but let's just say we all tried our best for what we had. Oh, is there a picture of it? No. But one of the things that we had to, or one of the portions of it was to show how Jesus served, was to wash a woman's feet, and I was asked to portray Jesus in this little play. So I go over and I grab a chair and I sit it down in front, and go over and grab a woman that was sitting there and bring her down and set her in the chair, pull off her sandals, pour some water on her feet and wash it with a washcloth, put her sandals back on her feet, and help her up back to her seat. And the play continues to go on. We got a great applause from all the Ghanaians for our wonderful acting, and the day went on as it did. Later that night at dinner, somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I don't know if you heard, but the woman that you washed your feet, something amazing happened. A miracle had happened with her. She had persistent pain in her feet and legs. I'm not sure exactly what from, but apparently what had happened when I had washed her feet, she had been completely healed of her pain." Now, I heard that, and I probably thought the same thing you guys just all thought, like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. There's no way that I touch someone's feet and heal them. That's certainly not what happened. In that moment, God didn't come down and, grant me the power to heal people and take away pain. That's not what happened at all. And it took me a couple of days to really come to that, which I'm not happy of. I wish it would have taken a little quicker, but I had to think about it for a while and figure out like what this all meant. And what I finally kind of came to, and what I understood to be what happened, was this woman had been in pain for who knows how long. Probably prayed almost every day for her pain to go away, as she had to get up early and walk to the well and draw water for her whole family and walk it all back, just one of the many chores that she had to do. I'd imagine that she'd been praying for a long time for this pain to go away. And for whatever reason, the skit, our great acting, really drove the message of the gospel home for her. You know, we ought to get some kind of Oscar or something, right? Maybe. But in that moment of me washing her feet, the gospel story finally clicked for her, and when she got up out of that chair to go walk back to her seat, her pain had gone away. Her prayers that she had been praying had finally been answered, and who knows how many there had been. But it was truly amazing to me to think that, just doing a small little skit that we had a few minutes to prepare for, that we overanalyzed and overthought of, was enough to be able to deliver the gospel message, to be able to get it to click for somebody. And that really I've really been chewing on that for since I've been back. What else can I do, or how else can I help share the message or deliver God's word? How can I show in the way I live my life what the word has done for me and what it can do for other people? And it's brought me back to Romans 10:14 through 17. And this is in the NIV, if any of you have a Bible and want to follow along. But Romans 10:14 through 17, it says, "How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. But not all the Israelites accepted the good news, for Isaiah says, 'Lord, who has believed our message?' Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ." Amen. So thinking about, I've been thinking about all of that and wondering, where else can I make this impact? How can I do this in my daily life? And boy, wouldn't you know that God had already kind of showed me or answered some of that before today. Did anybody here know who Montel Jordan is? Montel Jordan. This is how we do it. Bum, 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 bum. This is how. Yeah, that guy. We know that song. Okay, so yeah. So he did a song. So he actually became a pastor. He's a pastor. I think in 2003 he became a pastor. Well, my brother-in-law, he's a pretty impressive young guy, and he was on a business trip to Miami or something over the weekend, and we were talking about, I had to ask a tax question for him or something like that. I was talking to him about that and mentioned a little bit about how I was going to be sharing the Ghana story and stuff like that. Well, yesterday, as I'm preparing for this speech, he sends me a text message saying, "Hey, I got in a Bible study or a daily devotional with Montel Jordan," and he, in parentheses, "yes, that this is how we do it, Montel Jordan." I'm like, what? Like, my brother-in-law has not once made any mention to me about wanting to pursue God or learn more, and here he is after my Ghana trip reaching out to me asking if I want to join in on this daily devotional with Montel Jordan. I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to do a Bible study with Montel Jordan. So yeah, and then I thought too this morning, like last night I stayed up late thinking about this, didn't sleep well, woke up early this morning, was extra chipper about being excited to share the news and the story and everything else. But then I caught myself in that moment and was like, why is today any special? Just because I'm up here on this stage, I've got a few more people in my audience than I normally would, but I can do this every day. And that's I think my biggest takeaway from Ghana.
Again, for me, just seeing how grateful everyone was and how helpful. Seeing that when we came to the village in the morning, that the kids always welcome us right in the can-dos, and just grabbed our bags and wanted to take our bags wherever we wanted to go. And that, like I said, again, they're the littlest things. Like I remember, we had liters of water every day, and all they wanted was us to leave them those plastic bottles when we were done. And that was just amazing, and they were so grateful for having that. They didn't want the water in it, they just wanted the plastic bottles. We got to see like 10 baptisms. That was amazing. And to also see where they came from. I know in the past they said that they had to go to a river that had like, wasn't even a river, a mud hole. And now they have built a cement pool that hopefully they'll get tile later on, that they were able to do their baptisms then. And that was just really good. And we got to meet a lot of the ladies and guys that makes the baskets. And just a reminder of that, we do have a few baskets left if you want to get one. But also remember that that one basket takes care of their family for a month. So that is just so amazing.
So for me, first of all, I want to give a shout out for everyone here for praying for us. I saw that. I'm probably going to scare the crap out of Sean now. But on our way back, we circled Dulles Airport for 45 minutes. Then we ended up going to Atlanta. We did that because heavy winds and wind shear. I don't normally get nervous flying, but I was nervous. I was nervous because Tina was flying, we were all flying, and I know how deadly wind shear can be for an airplane. We landed in Atlanta. The next day is when the airplane in Toronto flipped over. So I want to thank everyone here for praying for us. I know it seems like it's rather late in the whole Ghana trip for it, but for me, it showed the power of prayer for all of us. Thank you.
Your foot. There you go. Okay. By the way, if anyone has a question, just you can holler it out. I was really touched this time when we visited the child that we sponsor. His name is Barak, is how they pronounce it. Barak is how you would say it. And I met that little guy when he was not quite, I don't think, old enough for kindergarten. So now, I think he's getting ready to go in 8th or 9th grade. But is he up there? Okay. He's the also bald. So you might not be able to tell who's who. Anyway, his family, his sweet little family, we have an interpreter. The wife speaks a little bit of English, but the husband, he drives a truck. He doesn't. And so it turned out that Mike and Molly, the two people, a couple that are from Minnesota, were there also, and they sponsor the daughter, Angel. So they ended up coming over and hanging out, and we're just having a good time. We brought, some token gifts. And then the husband comes in, and he's got 2 guinea hens. Now, if you know anything about guinea hens, they are the noisiest birds on earth. But I found out when you tie their feet together and hang them upside down, they got nothing to say. I felt so bad for these birds. They come in there just like but that was such a big thing for them. They wanted us, our 2 families, to take those back with us. Not here, no, that would have been a great thing for the birds. No, they went back to our guest house and they were cooked up a couple days later. But I wanted so bad to say, please no, but that would have been the wrong thing to say. They wanted to give that to us. So what a gift that was. So once again, I was reminded that you can't outgive God. He's got people that are just full of generosity. And Everywhere you go, where there are believers, you make an instant connection. You're one in the Lord, and it doesn't take any time to get to know people and feel really connected to them. And so that was something else. But I went over there this time wanting to see Ghana through these guys' eyes because it's their first time, and just to enjoy that, because after a while, you stop asking questions and stop being curious. You think you know everything, right? And so they're asking questions that I never thought to ask and learning things that I never would have learned. And just to see how God worked. And the thing is, a lot of times, and this was the way it was for me the first time I went, you don't have a specific assignment. You're just kind of there, and everyone else seems to have something to do. But to watch these guys scrambling around and trying to figure out how God could use them and jumping in everywhere they could, and to make themselves available. And with 400 kids running around, there's always something to do. So that was neat. You guys have any questions? We could talk all week about this. Did you guys want to say anything else, Monique? John? We got a question in the back. Who is it? Lola? All right, so let me say something about that. There's got to be other videos out there. I don't know why that one would be selected. That was probably not, needed to be seen.
Oh, there's a video of each one of us.
Okay, so the thing about the dance is that's a big part of their worship service. So you might have a video, usually in a church service, they'll put the offering basket up here, and then everybody will form a Congo line and bop around the church and bring their offering up. And that can take 20 minutes. I don't know, you guys probably don't have patience enough to do that. But that's a routine thing. And then during worship, the ladies usually they'll kick off their shoes, and the guys will do it too, but it's mostly ladies, and they will stomp dance on these hard floors of concrete, and they'll do that. Now, I think, they pretty much have a dance they do, which if you see some of them, you'll see that. Hey, girl, come on up. But Sean introduced a new dance that they may incorporate now. I think it was the Russian nesting doll, Fiddler on the Roof dance. Joff taught them that you can incorporate jumping jacks into your worship. Matt and Monique pretty much got with the traditional dance. That stuff.
When in Rome.
Yeah, there we go. All right, I'll just let the tape roll. You explain what you're doing here.
Since I'm entertainment now. So I have to tell you that after a couple of days of being there, I'm kind of wandering around. And I'm watching Grace, and I'm watching Monique, and I'm watching Matthew, and I'm watching Steve. And I see all these young men, and they're just kind of all huddled together. So I go over and I start trying to talk to them. And I ask them what they want to do. I want to, and everyone over there, there's 3 basic things that they want to do. It's all civil service jobs. They either want to be a nurse, they want to go into the military, or they want to work with, be a pastor or something like that. It's all civil service, what they would consider civil service stuff. So these young men were having fun trying to teach me their language and how I would butcher every word that they told me. No, I cannot repeat any of them because I don't remember them. But, yeah, Balika.
Good morning.
Good morning. The one day they taught me, every time I walked back, they're hitting me up with it over and over again. I'm sure after a couple months of doing it, I would have it down. I just don't. But I found it interesting that all these young men, and I would say young men meaning under the age of 16, they were very interested in what we were doing because they don't have a lot of that stuff from their uncles and fathers and older brothers of, what's the right word?
Mentoring?
Mentoring, yes. They don't get a whole lot of that mentoring. A lot of the women there, they're the ones that are going to church. They're the ones that are trying to help their husbands and brothers and fathers understand what they're doing and see what they're doing. I look around right here and I'm encouraged at all the men that I see out here, because it would have, like, from here over men, the rest of it would be all women.
Think about that. I don't know. Explain your dance. They don't have his dance. This dance was awesome. I like the outfit. What do you think of that outfit?
So, yeah, that's my, Steve calls them my blue pajamas. But that is the hottest suit in Ghana. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. When in Rome, you know? Yeah. That's great. I would, yeah, we would prep Sean's, would you? Sean's is in there somewhere. I would say too, one thing that I guess maybe we can kind of forget, or maybe we just don't think about it, is children are the same no matter where you are, what culture you're in, how much money you have, what you worship, or anything. Kids are all the same. And we had just such a fun time playing silly little games with those kids. Some of them games they taught us, some games that we taught them. But I mean, it was just really cool to see how quick and willing they were all wanting to learn and to participate. And we played some of the same games that we play here in the youth group with those kids, and we had a blast. But just really cool to think about that children are innocent no matter where you are. Oh yeah, there we are. We're playing sardines. So I'm in a classroom where they were storing some lumber, obviously, and there was a hole between these sheets of plywood, and there was probably 15 kids packed into this hole with me, and we're all bundled together. It is probably 115 degrees in there. But we were giggling and laughing as people were coming into the room and had no idea we were sitting there. It was pretty fun. But yeah, even like playing soccer with them too. I think to Josh's point, like I don't think they have a whole lot of older brothers or young men or their dads and stuff playing games with them, because as soon as I would like trip or fall or start sweating a little bit, or any little thing, they'd be like, "Oh, go rest, you take it easy." And maybe it's because of my face was turning red like a cherry because it was so hot. But the kids there had big hearts, which was really cool to see. And I think maybe some of that comes from tribal living. Everyone kind of takes care of everybody and looks out for everybody. And yeah. Anybody want to add anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the last night we were there, we were invited to Peter and Comfort's home. We sat down with them. We presented them with all of the gifts that were given for us to take with them. We gave them the soccer balls, jump ropes. Nope.
That's not the gift we left with them.
No. Here in the U.S., we purchase a lot of stuff. There, they very much valued everything that was made. It was very encouraging to see their response with everything that we gave them.
Just to kind of add to, so you can kind of understand how much they appreciated what we gave them. I mean, any gift, especially the ones where we had put some thought and some heart into it. Any of the gifts that we gave them, they were so incredibly grateful. One woman that made our shirts, made that dress for Monique and a couple of other clothes. She came and dropped them all off, and before she left, we asked her if we could pray for her. And in praying for her, we asked God to, give her good health, bring fortune upon her family and success in her business, a number of other things that we would commonly pray for each other about. But each time one of these things was listed in this prayer, this woman audibly was like shocked that we would even pray for her to have these kind of successes and things like that. God, please bring her business success. She's, oh my, just very appreciative of that. So just to even pray for them, they were very appreciative, but to actually give them something meant just even that much more.
Any other questions? You can corner us at some point. We'll be happy to talk about it. We do need to see Sean's video, or I don't think we can leave. I mean, what's going on here?
I have it on my phone if anybody wants.
Those are secret files. They're classified. Anyway, we are so grateful for this experience. We're so grateful that we got to go. What an incredible thing. And like Steve said, I want to reiterate, my favorite part of this one, I mean, this was my 4th time going and Steve's 5th. It is so awesome to watch someone who's never been a part of a mission trip like that, and watching how God just opens their eyes to things. And it is weird. I feel like I watched this group become transformed right before my eyes. And that's an amazing part of being sent and being prayed for. And it's something that if you've never done it, I know it can be scary. It can feel different. You don't know if you can cover the finances. But listen, there were a lot of us that were like, we don't know how we're going to make this happen. But God did make it happen. And I was just so grateful for that. And so we love it, and we love ASON. They are an amazing organization. We love Word International. That's the church, the radio station, and the school. That's all Word International, doing fantastic things. And we're continuing to pray that God lead them to the right people, because I'm pretty sure that Peter's on the road now where he's thinking about, how do I land this plane and pass it on to someone else so that the work of God continues in Zarangu? So I want to pray for us, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more as things come out. And pay attention on social media to any posts. They might share stuff on their phones that wasn't shared today, and I'm sure my dancing video will come out. So if you really want to see it, just pay attention. I want to pray over us. Father, thank you for this team. Thank you for this trip. God, thank you for the church that's there. Thank you for the gospel. That's really what we're celebrating. It's the way the gospel transforms lives all around the world. And though it slightly looks different, the same thing is the most important thing. It's all about becoming more like Jesus. It's all about the hope of Jesus, that we do not have to worry that when our time on this earth ticks away and comes to an end, that we don't know what to do. Father, our names can be written in the Lamb's Book of Life simply by trusting that Jesus is who he says he is, and accepting his gift of grace, and turning away from our old life, turning away from anything that's not of him, so that we might receive who you are. God, it's both grace and transformation. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, and we thank you for the partnership that we have with ASON and Ghana, and may you continue to use it to produce fruit in your kingdom for years and years and years to come. We love you, Lord. Thank you for blessing us. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray, and all God's people said, amen.
Will you stand with us? And this is